Welcome to Mind Fuel Audio. Today, we dive into Stop Overthinking by Nick Trenton, offering quick, effective strategies to calm your mind and regain focus. Perfect for anyone looking to break free from overthinking. Chapter 1, The Cycle of Overthinking. In the opening chapter of Stop Overthinking, Nick Trenton draws readers into the complex world of overthinking, a habit that many of us unknowingly fall into. Trenton starts by explaining that overthinking often begins with a small, seemingly harmless worry. It could be something as simple as questioning a conversation you had or wondering about an upcoming event. These little concerns spark a chain of thoughts that begin to spiral out of control. What starts as a minor worry quickly turns into an overwhelming, all-consuming mental process, leaving us stuck and unsure of how to move forward. Trenton makes a key point: overthinking isn't just about thinking too much, it's about thinking in the wrong way. Instead of focusing on solving the problem or taking action, overthinking causes us to loop through endless thoughts, often imagining the worst possible outcomes or replaying past events. We analyze every little detail, asking ourselves, what if, and what could I have done differently? This type of thinking prevents us from moving forward because we get trapped in the cycle of rumination. One of the reasons overthinking is so dangerous, Trenton explains, is because it leads to mental exhaustion. When we overthink, we're not just working through a problem, we're draining our mental energy by constantly second-guessing ourselves. This excessive analysis can leave us feeling confused, overwhelmed, and emotionally drained. It becomes difficult to make decisions, take action, or even relax. As a result, we may feel paralyzed, as though we're stuck in quicksand, unable to escape the overwhelming thoughts that weigh us down. Trenton also highlights the powerful connection between overthinking and anxiety. Overthinking feeds into our fears and worries, creating a cycle of anxiety. The more we think about a problem, the more anxious we become, and the more anxious we are, the more we continue to overthink. This vicious cycle makes us feel out of control, as though we are trapped in our own minds. We start to focus more on the potential dangers and uncertainties in our lives, rather than on what's actually happening in the present moment. The result? We become consumed by stress and unable to break free from the mental loop. But Trenton doesn't just leave us there, hopelessly trapped in this cycle. He offers a solution. He explains that overthinking is a habit, not something we're born with. It's a learned behavior that we've picked up over time, and just like any other habit, it can be changed. The key to breaking the cycle is awareness. By recognizing when we're overthinking, we can take the first step toward reclaiming control of our thoughts. This awareness allows us to interrupt the cycle of overthinking and redirect our focus toward the present moment. One of the most effective tools that Trenton introduces to combat overthinking is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, without judgment or distraction. Instead of obsessing over past mistakes or future worries, mindfulness encourages us to focus on what is happening right now. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to quiet the constant chatter in our minds and bring our attention back to the present. This shift in focus helps us stop overthinking and become more grounded, allowing us to make clearer decisions and feel less anxious. Trenton also emphasizes the importance of challenging our thoughts. Overthinking often involves exaggerating problems or imagining worst-case scenarios that may never happen. By challenging these thoughts and asking ourselves whether they are realistic, we can break the cycle and gain a more balanced perspective. For example, if we're worried about a presentation, we might ask ourselves, what's the worst that could happen, and then rationally assess whether that worst-case scenario is likely or not. This simple technique helps us detach from our fears and think more logically. The chapter wraps up with a message of hope. Trenton reminds us that while overthinking can feel overwhelming, it is something we can control. It's not about eliminating all thoughts, but about learning to manage our thoughts in a healthier way. By developing awareness, practicing mindfulness, and challenging our negative thought patterns, we can break free from the grip of overthinking. With patience and practice, we can regain control of our minds and start living with greater clarity, confidence, and peace of mind. In this first chapter, Trenton provides both a clear explanation of overthinking and a hopeful path forward. He makes it clear that overthinking doesn't have to define our lives. Instead of allowing our minds to spiral out of control, we can take active steps to stop overthinking and start living more fully in the present moment. With the right tools and mindset, we can stop the cycle and create the mental space we need to thrive. Chapter 2: The Power of Your Thoughts. In Chapter 2 of Stop Overthinking, Nick Trenton digs deeper into the role our thoughts play in creating and sustaining overthinking. He begins by explaining that the thoughts we have are not just passive reactions to the world around us, they are active forces that shape how we experience life. Our thoughts are like the lens through which we see the world. They affect how we interpret events, how we react to challenges, and even how we feel about ourselves. The chapter's main focus is on how our thinking patterns can either help or hinder us, and how we can take control of our thoughts to break free from the overthinking cycle. Trenton starts by introducing the concept of thought patterns. These are the habitual ways we think, which develop over time based on our experiences, beliefs, and even past traumas. Thought patterns are automatic, meaning we don't often stop to question them. For example, if you've had a bad experience in the past where you failed at something, you might develop a pattern of thinking that tells you that you're not good enough or that you'll fail again. These automatic thoughts can trigger overthinking, as you dwell on potential future failures instead of focusing on what's happening in the present. What Trenton emphasizes is that many of these thoughts are negative or limiting, which makes it easy for them to spiral into overthinking. When we let negative thoughts take hold, we start imagining worst-case scenarios, even when there's no real evidence to support them. This often leads to increased anxiety and stress, as we begin to catastrophize, expecting the worst. Trenton explains that this kind of thinking makes it harder to take action, because we're so focused on what could go wrong that we freeze, unable to move forward. One of the most powerful points Trenton makes in this chapter is that our thoughts are not facts. This might seem simple, but it's a fundamental idea that many people overlook. Just because we think something doesn't mean it's true. Overthinking is often based on distorted thoughts that we mistake for reality. For example, if you think, "I'll never succeed," that's not a fact, it's a thought that arises from your fears and insecurities. By recognizing that our thoughts are not the truth, we can begin to challenge them. Trenton encourages readers to take a step back and ask themselves, is this thought really true? Does it help me? This simple shift in perspective can be incredibly powerful in breaking the cycle of overthinking. The chapter also highlights the importance of mindful awareness when it comes to controlling our thoughts. Trenton introduces the idea of becoming an observer of our thoughts rather than a prisoner to them. By practicing mindfulness, we can learn to notice our thoughts without getting swept up in them. Instead of reacting automatically to every negative thought, we can pause and choose how we want to respond. This is a key strategy in stopping overthinking. It helps us break free from the automatic, habitual thinking that often leads to rumination and anxiety. Trenton also explains that our thoughts are influenced by our beliefs. Our beliefs, often formed early in life, shape how we interpret the world. For instance, if you believe that you are not capable or that you aren't deserving of success, your thoughts will often reinforce these beliefs, leading you to overthink situations where you feel uncertain or insecure. Over time, this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, where the way we think creates the outcomes we fear. Trenton urges readers to challenge these limiting beliefs and replace them with healthier, more empowering thoughts. This can be done by examining where these beliefs came from and asking whether they are truly valid or helpful in our current life. As the chapter progresses, Trenton delves into practical strategies for taking control of our thoughts. One of these strategies is the use of thought-stopping techniques. When you notice yourself starting to overthink, Trenton suggests that you literally say, "stop," in your mind, which serves as a cue to interrupt the cycle of rumination. Another technique he recommends is to redirect your focus to something else entirely. By engaging in an activity that fully captures your attention, whether it's exercising, reading, or even doing a creative task, you can shift your mind away from the negative, anxious thoughts that trigger overthinking. This helps to break the automatic cycle and create mental space for more positive and productive thinking. Trenton also discusses the power of positive affirmations, simple statements that help to reframe negative thoughts. For instance, if you catch yourself thinking, "I'll never be good enough," you can counteract that thought with a more empowering affirmation, like, "I am capable of handling challenges and growing from them." These affirmations may feel awkward at first, but Trenton emphasizes that repeating them regularly can help retrain your brain to adopt a more positive and confident mindset. In the final part of the chapter, Trenton stresses the importance of self-compassion. Overthinking often stems from a place of self-criticism, where we judge ourselves harshly for our perceived mistakes or flaws. Trenton reminds readers that it's essential to be kind to ourselves and recognize that everyone experiences self-doubt and makes mistakes. By practicing self-compassion, we can reduce the harshness of our thoughts and give ourselves permission to be imperfect. This mindset shift allows us to stop the cycle of overthinking, as we stop beating ourselves up and start accepting ourselves as we are. Trenton concludes Chapter 2 by reinforcing that our thoughts are powerful, but they don't have to control us. By becoming more aware of our thought patterns, challenging negative beliefs, and practicing mindfulness, we can take charge of our thinking and stop overthinking. The key takeaway from this chapter is that overthinking doesn't have to be a permanent state. With the right tools and mindset, we can break free from the automatic, negative thought patterns that keep us stuck. By doing so, we create the mental space to focus on what truly matters and live a more peaceful, empowered life. Chapter 3, Challenging Your Thoughts. In Chapter 3 of Stop Overthinking, Nick Trenton shifts the focus to the importance of challenging the negative thoughts that fuel overthinking. The key takeaway from this chapter is that the thoughts we have are not always accurate or helpful. Overthinking arises when we accept these thoughts as truth without questioning them. Trenton emphasizes that the ability to challenge these thoughts is one of the most powerful tools we have to stop the overthinking cycle. By learning to recognize and confront distorted or unproductive thoughts, we can reduce anxiety, gain clarity, and regain control over our minds. Trenton begins by discussing the nature of automatic thoughts, which are quick, unconscious reactions that we have to certain situations. These thoughts often pop into our minds without any warning, and they are typically influenced by our past experiences, fears, and beliefs. The problem with automatic thoughts is that they can be overly negative or unrealistic. For instance, if you're about to give a presentation, your automatic thought might be, "I'm going to mess up," even though there is no evidence to support this belief. This type of thinking is a hallmark of overthinking. Instead of focusing on the task at hand, you get lost in exaggerated or fearful thoughts that hold you back from taking action. One of the first steps in breaking free from overthinking, according to Trenton, is awareness. The goal is to become conscious of these automatic thoughts as they arise. Once we recognize them, we can take a step back and evaluate whether they are realistic or helpful. Trenton explains that many of our automatic thoughts are distorted. They are not grounded in reality, but instead are based on fears, assumptions, or past experiences that may no longer apply to the present moment. For example, if you're anxious about an upcoming social event, your mind might automatically jump to thoughts like, "No one will talk to me," or "I'll embarrass myself." These thoughts are often far from the truth, but because they arise automatically, we rarely question them. Trenton introduces the concept of cognitive distortions, which are patterns of thinking that reinforce negative thoughts and feelings. He lists several common cognitive distortions that fuel overthinking, such as catastrophizing, imagining the worst-case scenario without evidence to support it, e.g., if I make one mistake, I'll lose my job. All-or-nothing thinking, seeing situations in extremes, without recognizing the gray areas, e.g., I have to be perfect, or I'm a failure. Overgeneralization, taking one negative event and assuming it will happen every time, e.g., I failed once, so I'll always fail. Mind reading, assuming you know what others are thinking, usually in a negative light, e.g., they probably think I'm stupid. These distortions prevent us from seeing situations clearly and accurately, often leading to unnecessary anxiety and stress. Trenton encourages readers to challenge these distorted thoughts by asking themselves questions like, what's the evidence for this thought, or, is this the only way to look at the situation? By reframing our thinking, we can gain a more balanced perspective that helps reduce overthinking. A critical aspect of challenging our thoughts is self-reflection. Trenton suggests taking time to reflect on the origins of our negative thought patterns. Often, these thoughts are tied to beliefs we've formed from past experiences, especially early in life. For example, if you were criticized a lot as a child, you might develop the belief that you are not good enough or that you must constantly prove yourself to others. These beliefs shape how we think in the present, even if they no longer serve us. Trenton encourages readers to identify these beliefs and question their validity. By understanding where these thoughts come from, we can begin to dismantle them and replace them with healthier, more empowering beliefs. The chapter also discusses the power of perspective shifting. This technique involves looking at a situation from a different angle, which can help break the cycle of overthinking. For example, if you're feeling nervous about an interview, instead of focusing on the potential failure, try to view the situation as an opportunity for growth or a learning experience. This shift in perspective can reduce anxiety and increase confidence. Trenton emphasizes that how we interpret situations has a significant impact on how we feel about them. By choosing to adopt a more positive or neutral perspective, we can reduce the emotional intensity of overthinking and take more constructive action. Trenton also offers practical strategies for interrupting the overthinking cycle. One of these strategies is the use of thought-stopping techniques. When you notice yourself falling into a cycle of negative thinking, Trenton suggests that you consciously interrupt the thought by saying, "Stop," or "Not now." This simple action can disrupt the flow of overthinking and give you the mental space to shift your focus. Another technique is to write down your thoughts. By putting your thoughts on paper, you externalize them, making them easier to analyze and challenge. Writing can also help you spot patterns in your thinking that you might not have noticed before. One important point that Trenton emphasizes is the idea that not all thoughts need to be acted upon. Just because a thought arises doesn't mean it requires your attention or action. Overthinking often stems from the belief that we must constantly process every thought and concern. But Trenton reassures readers that it's okay to let some thoughts pass without dwelling on them. This is where mindfulness comes in again. By practicing mindfulness, we can let go of the need to analyze every thought and instead focus on the present moment. Towards the end of the chapter, Trenton provides a powerful reminder that breaking free from overthinking is a gradual process. It takes time and consistent effort to change the way we think. He urges readers to be patient with themselves and practice self-compassion. The goal is not perfection, but progress. By regularly challenging negative thoughts, practicing self-reflection, and shifting our perspective, we can begin to break the cycle of overthinking and develop a more balanced, clear way of thinking. Trenton concludes Chapter 3 with an encouraging message: you have the power to change your thoughts. It's not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight, but by practicing these techniques, you can take control of your thinking patterns and stop overthinking. Instead of being ruled by your thoughts, you can learn to respond to them in a healthier, more constructive way. The key is to recognize that your thoughts are not facts, and you have the ability to change how you think, which will, in turn, change how you feel and act. Chapter 4: The Impact of Your Environment. In Chapter 4 of Stop Overthinking, Nick Trenton explores how the environment around us can significantly influence our mental state and contribute to the cycle of overthinking. Trenton argues that while our thoughts are critical, they are also shaped by external factors such as the people we interact with, the places we frequent, and the media we consume. The core message of this chapter is that our environment plays a huge role in how we think and feel. Therefore, to break free from overthinking, we must become more mindful of the influences in our lives and take steps to create an environment that supports our mental well-being. Trenton begins by discussing the idea that our external environment doesn't just affect us on a surface level, it shapes our beliefs, our attitudes, and ultimately our thinking patterns. For example, if you're constantly surrounded by people who are negative or overly critical, you may begin to internalize these attitudes. Over time, this can create a mindset that is prone to overthinking, self-doubt, and fear. Trenton stresses that we are naturally influenced by the people and things around us, whether we realize it or not. This is why it's essential to create a positive and supportive environment that encourages healthy thinking and reduces the chances of falling into the overthinking trap. One of the key areas that Trenton focuses on is the people we spend time with. He explains that toxic or negative relationships can be a significant source of stress and overthinking. If you're constantly surrounded by people who criticize you, belittle your ideas, or instill fear in you, it becomes difficult to cultivate a healthy mindset. These relationships may lead you to question your worth, your decisions, and your abilities, ultimately fueling the cycle of overthinking. Trenton encourages readers to assess the relationships in their lives and consider whether they are truly supportive or whether they contribute to negative thought patterns. While it may not always be easy, making the decision to distance yourself from toxic relationships is an essential step in breaking free from overthinking. Trenton also touches on the impact of social media and the digital world on our mental health. He explains that constant exposure to social media can increase feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, and overthinking. Social media platforms often present a curated, idealized version of reality, where people only share their best moments, leading others to compare themselves and feel like they're falling short. Trenton notes that this constant comparison can be a breeding ground for negative thinking. We start to question whether we're successful enough, happy enough, or doing enough with our lives. This fuels overthinking, as we dwell on our perceived shortcomings instead of focusing on our own path and growth. Trenton advises readers to set boundaries around social media use and be mindful of how it makes them feel. If social media leads to anxiety or negative thinking, it might be time to take a break or limit exposure to certain platforms. In addition to the people we interact with and the media we consume, Trenton emphasizes the importance of our physical environment. Our surroundings, whether they're cluttered or organized, peaceful or chaotic, have a direct impact on our state of mind. If you live or work in an environment that is disorganized or overwhelming, it can be difficult to focus and find mental clarity. The clutter around us can often lead to cluttered thinking, increasing the chances of overthinking. Trenton suggests that creating a calm, organized environment is a powerful way to reduce stress and help prevent overthinking. This could mean decluttering your workspace, creating a space for relaxation, or even adjusting the lighting and colors in your home to promote a sense of calm. By making small changes to your physical environment, you can create a space that supports clarity and focus. Another important aspect of our environment that Trenton discusses is the impact of routine. He explains that having a structured routine can help create a sense of control and reduce the mental chaos that fuels overthinking. When our lives are unpredictable or constantly in flux, it can feel like we're unable to keep up with everything, which leads to anxiety and overthinking. On the other hand, a predictable routine provides a sense of stability, helping us feel more grounded and less overwhelmed. Trenton advises readers to establish a daily routine that works for them, including time for work, relaxation, exercise, and personal growth. A routine doesn't have to be rigid, but it should provide enough structure to create balance and reduce the mental clutter that leads to overthinking. As the chapter progresses, Trenton discusses the concept of energy drainage. He explains that our environment can drain us emotionally and mentally, especially when we are constantly exposed to negativity, stress, or overwhelm. This can leave us feeling exhausted and mentally foggy, making it harder to think clearly and make decisions. To combat energy drainage, Trenton recommends making conscious choices about the people, places, and activities we engage with. If certain environments or relationships leave you feeling drained, it may be time to reassess whether they are serving your well-being. Taking time for self-care, setting boundaries, and prioritizing activities that recharge your energy are all essential for maintaining a healthy mental state. Trenton concludes the chapter by reinforcing the idea that our environment is not just something that happens to us, it's something we can actively shape. By being mindful of the people we surround ourselves with, the media we consume, and the physical spaces we occupy, we can create an environment that supports our mental health and reduces the chances of overthinking. Trenton encourages readers to take small, intentional steps to create an environment that nurtures clarity, positivity, and peace of mind. By making these changes, we can begin to break the cycle of overthinking and build a life that is more balanced, focused, and fulfilling. Chapter 5, Embracing the Present Moment. In Chapter 5 of Stop Overthinking, Nick Trenton dives deep into the importance of living in the present moment and how it can be a powerful antidote to the cycle of overthinking. Overthinking often takes us away from the present and traps us in the past or future, leaving us anxious, regretful, or fearful. Trenton's message in this chapter is clear: to stop overthinking, we must learn to embrace the now. This is not just about focusing on the present, it's about fully engaging with it and breaking free from the mental patterns that hold us back. The chapter opens with Trenton explaining that much of overthinking is rooted in worrying about the future or dwelling on the past. When we overthink, we get stuck in endless loops of what-if scenarios, imagining all the possible outcomes of a situation. These thoughts often lead to fear, anxiety, and stress, as we feel like we can't control the future. Similarly, we may overthink past events, replaying conversations, decisions, or mistakes, and feeling regretful or ashamed. Trenton points out that both of these mental habits take us away from the present, where we actually have control over our thoughts and actions. By focusing on the present, we not only relieve ourselves of unnecessary stress but also gain the ability to act with clarity and purpose. One of the central concepts in this chapter is mindfulness. Trenton explains that mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in whatever you're doing, without judgment or distraction. Mindfulness allows us to focus on the task at hand, whether it's something simple like eating a meal or something more complex like having a conversation or solving a problem. When we are mindful, we are not lost in our thoughts; instead, we are deeply engaged in the moment. Trenton emphasizes that mindfulness is not something we do occasionally, but something we cultivate regularly. By practicing mindfulness daily, we train our brains to stay in the present moment, reducing the tendency to overthink. Trenton also addresses the concept of awareness in this chapter. He highlights that being aware of our thoughts is the first step toward managing them. Often, we don't realize when we're overthinking because our thoughts are automatic and habitual. Trenton encourages readers to become more aware of when their minds wander, whether it's drifting to worries about the future or replaying past events. Once we recognize that we're overthinking, we can consciously choose to redirect our attention back to the present. This shift in awareness is empowering because it allows us to take control of our mental state, rather than letting our thoughts control us. An important part of embracing the present moment, according to Trenton, is letting go of the need for perfection. Overthinking is often driven by a fear of making mistakes or not living up to expectations. When we're constantly worried about doing things perfectly, we get caught in cycles of hesitation and doubt. Trenton points out that perfection is an unrealistic standard, and striving for it can paralyze us with overthinking. Instead, he suggests that we aim for progress rather than perfection. By embracing imperfections and focusing on doing our best in the present moment, we can free ourselves from the crippling fear of failure and the endless loop of overthinking. The chapter also touches on the role of self-compassion in breaking the cycle of overthinking. Trenton reminds readers that it's important to be kind to themselves, especially when they slip into overthinking. Overthinking often comes with harsh self-judgment, where we criticize ourselves for not being perfect or for making mistakes. This only fuels more negative thoughts and intensifies overthinking. Trenton encourages a shift in perspective. When you notice yourself overthinking, instead of criticizing yourself, practice self-compassion. Remind yourself that everyone overthinks at times, and it's okay to be imperfect. This compassionate mindset can help reduce the pressure that fuels overthinking and make it easier to return to the present moment. Another key idea in Chapter 5 is the importance of taking action. Trenton explains that overthinking is often a result of avoiding decisions or procrastinating. When we overthink, we delay taking action because we fear the outcomes, or we feel unsure about what the right decision is. However, the more we delay, the more we reinforce the habit of overthinking. Trenton suggests that the best way to overcome this is by taking small, manageable steps. Instead of thinking about the entire project or the long-term consequences, focus on one small action you can take right now. By breaking things down into smaller, more manageable tasks, we reduce the mental clutter that leads to overthinking and create momentum. Throughout the chapter, Trenton emphasizes that the present moment is all we have. The past is gone, and the future is uncertain. All the worrying and overthinking in the world won't change what has already happened or control what's coming next. But by focusing on the present, we can take meaningful action and make the most of each moment. Trenton encourages readers to practice gratitude for the present moment and appreciate what's around them. Whether it's the people in your life, the opportunities you have, or even the simple things like the weather or a quiet moment, practicing gratitude helps anchor us in the present and shift our focus away from overthinking. One practical technique that Trenton offers is the idea of setting intentions for the day. Instead of letting your mind wander into anxious thoughts about the future, set an intention for how you want to approach the day. This could be as simple as deciding to be more present in your conversations or to take time for self-care. Setting an intention helps create a sense of purpose and direction, which can prevent the mind from drifting into overthinking. It also provides a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day, as you can reflect on how you were able to live in alignment with your intention. Finally, Trenton wraps up the chapter by encouraging readers to practice mindfulness and presence in all aspects of life. Whether it's through meditation, focused breathing, or simply paying attention to the sights, sounds, and sensations around you, practicing presence in everyday moments can greatly reduce overthinking. The more you train yourself to live in the present, the less you will find yourself trapped in cycles of unnecessary worry and stress. Chapter 6: The Power of Letting Go. In Chapter 6 of Stop Overthinking, Nick Trenton emphasizes the importance of letting go as a crucial step in overcoming the tendency to overthink. Overthinking often involves holding on to worries, doubts, past mistakes, or unrealistic expectations about the future. These mental burdens prevent us from living in the present and achieving the clarity needed to make decisions and move forward. Trenton's central message in this chapter is that the key to breaking the cycle of overthinking is learning how to let go of things that no longer serve us, whether that's unhelpful thoughts, past regrets, or the pressure to control every outcome. The chapter begins by explaining that overthinking often stems from our inability to let go of certain thoughts and emotions. When we overthink, we tend to replay scenarios over and over in our minds, analyzing every detail and worrying about potential outcomes. Trenton compares this to being stuck in a loop of unnecessary mental activity. This pattern is not only exhausting but also counterproductive, as it prevents us from taking meaningful action or finding solutions. To escape this cycle, Trenton advises readers to recognize when they're holding on to thoughts or feelings that keep them stuck in the past or paralyzed by the future. One of the key concepts in this chapter is the idea of mental clutter. Just as physical clutter in our environment can drain our energy and make it hard to focus, mental clutter can have the same effect on our ability to think clearly. Trenton explains that the more we hold on to negative thoughts, unresolved emotions, or worries about things we can't control, the more mental clutter we accumulate. This clutter clouds our judgment, makes it difficult to concentrate, and increases anxiety. By learning to let go of this mental clutter, we can create space for clearer thinking, better decision-making, and a more peaceful mind. Trenton goes on to discuss how letting go is not about ignoring or suppressing our feelings or thoughts. Instead, it's about acknowledging them, accepting them, and choosing not to let them control us. Overthinking often involves resisting certain emotions or thoughts, which only makes them stronger. When we resist, we're essentially giving more power to what we're trying to avoid. On the other hand, when we accept our thoughts and feelings without judgment, we disarm them. Trenton suggests that readers practice mindfulness and self-awareness to recognize when they're holding on to unhelpful thoughts or emotions and consciously choose to release them. The chapter also addresses the role of acceptance in letting go. Trenton explains that many of our overthinking habits are tied to our need for control. We often overthink because we feel the need to control every outcome or prevent every possible mistake. However, this desire for control is not only unrealistic but also stressful. The more we try to control things beyond our influence, the more we increase our anxiety and fuel overthinking. Trenton suggests that instead of trying to control everything, we learn to accept that some things are simply beyond our control. This acceptance doesn't mean giving up or being passive, it means recognizing that we can only control our actions and responses, not the external world or the future. By accepting this truth, we can let go of the need to overthink every possible outcome. Another important concept Trenton explores is forgiveness, both of others and ourselves. Holding on to grudges or past mistakes is a common cause of overthinking. When we carry unresolved feelings of anger, hurt, or regret, they weigh us down mentally and emotionally. This can lead to repetitive thoughts about the wrongs that have been done to us or the mistakes we've made. Trenton suggests that one of the most powerful ways to let go is to practice forgiveness. This doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior or excusing mistakes, but rather freeing ourselves from the grip of negative emotions that keep us stuck. Forgiveness allows us to release the mental and emotional hold that the past has on us, enabling us to move forward with greater peace and clarity. As the chapter progresses, Trenton introduces the concept of surrendering to the present moment. This involves accepting that the future is uncertain and that we can never predict every outcome. Instead of overthinking every decision or scenario, we can learn to surrender to the flow of life. Trenton likens this surrender to letting go of the need to control a river's current. Resisting it only causes struggle, while going with the flow allows us to navigate more smoothly. Surrendering doesn't mean being passive or apathetic, it's about trusting ourselves and the process of life, knowing that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way. By letting go of the need to control everything, we reduce the pressure we put on ourselves and allow our mental energy to be used more productively. Trenton also explores the importance of detachment in the process of letting go. Detachment, in this context, refers to distancing ourselves from thoughts and outcomes that are causing unnecessary stress or anxiety. It's about recognizing that we are not our thoughts, emotions, or past experiences. We are the observers of them. By practicing detachment, we can step back and view our thoughts and feelings with greater perspective. This helps reduce their power over us and makes it easier to let them go. Trenton encourages readers to take a step back when they find themselves overthinking and ask themselves whether their thoughts are truly helpful or whether they're just adding to their mental clutter. Trenton also provides several practical strategies for letting go, such as journaling, meditation, and breathing exercises. These techniques help quiet the mind and create space for relaxation and clarity. Journaling, for example, allows us to express our thoughts and emotions, which can help release pent-up feelings and reduce the tendency to ruminate. Meditation and breathing exercises, on the other hand, help bring our attention back to the present moment, allowing us to let go of worries about the past or future. Trenton encourages readers to incorporate these practices into their daily lives as a way to reduce mental clutter and promote a sense of calm and balance. Finally, the chapter concludes with a reminder that letting go is an ongoing process, not a one-time fix. Overthinking and mental clutter don't disappear overnight, but with consistent practice, we can gradually shift our mindset and develop healthier thinking habits. Trenton encourages readers to be patient with themselves and take small, intentional steps to let go of what no longer serves them. By doing so, they can create more mental space, reduce anxiety, and break free from the cycle of overthinking. Chapter 7: Control Your Thoughts, Control Your Life. In Chapter 7 of Stop Overthinking, Nick Trenton delves into the power of controlling your thoughts and how mastering your mind is essential for overcoming the habit of overthinking. Trenton highlights that many of our struggles with overthinking come from a lack of awareness and control over the constant flow of thoughts in our minds. The central message of this chapter is that by learning to control our thoughts, we can change how we experience life, reduce mental clutter, and make decisions with clarity. The chapter starts by explaining the nature of human thoughts. Trenton notes that our minds are constantly generating thoughts, sometimes helpful and constructive, but often negative or distracting. Overthinking happens when we get caught up in these unproductive thoughts, allowing them to dominate our mental space. Instead of allowing our minds to run on autopilot, Trenton encourages readers to take charge of their thought patterns and become more mindful of what's going on inside their heads. One of the first steps in controlling our thoughts, according to Trenton, is awareness. He explains that we often don't realize when we're overthinking because our thoughts happen automatically and out of our conscious control. To break the cycle, we need to become aware of when our minds are spiraling out of control. Trenton encourages readers to pay attention to their thoughts without judgment. By noticing when we're overthinking, we can catch ourselves before we get too lost in the mental maze and take steps to refocus. Once we are aware of our thoughts, the next step is interruption. Trenton offers a practical strategy for this. When you notice yourself overthinking, intentionally interrupt the thought cycle. One way to do this is by consciously shifting your focus to something else, such as taking a deep breath, focusing on your surroundings, or engaging in a simple task. This interruption acts like a reset button, helping to break the pattern of overthinking and bringing you back to the present moment. Trenton suggests using this technique regularly to train your mind to be more mindful and less reactive. A crucial point Trenton makes in this chapter is that controlling your thoughts doesn't mean suppressing or forcing them to stop. In fact, trying to completely block out certain thoughts can often make them more persistent. Instead, Trenton emphasizes the importance of acceptance. Accepting your thoughts without judgment means allowing them to exist without letting them control you. For example, if you have a worry or anxious thought, instead of pushing it away, acknowledge it. Recognizing the thought and then choosing to let it pass without attaching too much significance to it reduces its power over you. Trenton stresses that you don't have to believe every thought you have or let it dictate your actions. Trenton also explains that overthinking often stems from our emotional responses to certain thoughts. For example, we might overthink a situation because we feel anxious, fearful, or uncertain. The emotions connected to our thoughts can make them seem more real and urgent. Trenton suggests that we learn to detach our emotions from our thoughts. This doesn't mean ignoring emotions but rather observing them without letting them dictate our mental process. By recognizing that emotions are temporary and that they don't need to control our thoughts, we can prevent emotional overreaction and reduce the likelihood of spiraling into overthinking. Another technique Trenton discusses is cognitive reframing. This technique involves changing the way you perceive a situation or thought in order to alter your emotional response to it. For example, if you're worried about making a mistake at work, reframing could involve viewing the mistake as a learning opportunity rather than something that defines your worth. By changing the way you interpret thoughts, you can reduce the power of negative thinking patterns and transform them into more productive, positive ones. Trenton explains that cognitive reframing is a skill that takes practice, but it can significantly reduce overthinking by helping you see things from a different perspective. Trenton goes on to explain the concept of thought patterns, the habitual ways in which we tend to think about ourselves, others, and the world around us. Many of our overthinking tendencies are rooted in deeply ingrained thought patterns, which often stem from past experiences, childhood beliefs, or societal conditioning. These thought patterns can be automatic and hard to change, but Trenton reassures readers that with awareness and consistent effort, we can reprogram our minds to think in healthier, more productive ways. This process of reshaping thought patterns requires patience and practice, but it's essential for breaking free from the cycle of overthinking. The chapter also highlights the importance of positive self-talk. Overthinking is often fueled by negative self-talk, those internal voices that criticize, doubt, or judge us. These negative thoughts can be paralyzing and prevent us from taking action or making decisions. Trenton encourages readers to replace negative self-talk with more constructive and supportive thoughts. For example, instead of thinking, "I'm going to mess this up," try thinking, "I've handled challenges before, and I can do this again." This shift in self-talk helps to rewire the brain for more positive thinking, reducing the tendency to overthink. Trenton suggests that one of the most powerful ways to control your thoughts is by focusing on action. Overthinking is often a result of indecision or hesitation, where we get stuck in endless analysis and fail to make progress. By taking small, intentional actions, we can disrupt the cycle of overthinking and create momentum. Trenton recommends breaking down tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. When we focus on taking one small action at a time, we reduce the mental clutter that comes from trying to figure out everything at once. Action creates clarity and reduces the space for overthinking to take hold. Another important aspect of controlling your thoughts is creating a mental environment that fosters positive thinking and reduces the likelihood of overthinking. Trenton explains that our environment, both physical and social, has a significant impact on our mental state. Surrounding ourselves with positive influences, whether through people, media, or activities, can help create a mindset that supports mental clarity and reduces the risk of overthinking. Trenton encourages readers to be mindful of the content they consume and the people they engage with, as these can either fuel or reduce overthinking. Finally, Trenton wraps up the chapter by reiterating that controlling your thoughts is an ongoing practice. It's not something that happens overnight, but with regular effort, it becomes easier. He encourages readers to view their minds as a muscle that needs constant exercise and care. By practicing the techniques of awareness, interruption, reframing, and positive self-talk, we can gradually take control of our thoughts and, in turn, take control of our lives. Trenton's message is clear: the quality of your thoughts shapes the quality of your life, and by mastering your thoughts, you can create a more peaceful, fulfilling existence. Chapter 8, Mastering Your Attention, How to Stay Focused and Calm. In Chapter 8 of Stop Overthinking, Nick Trenton addresses a central theme that directly impacts the habit of overthinking: attention. The chapter explores how the constant pull of distractions, whether external or internal, contributes to our overthinking and makes it difficult to stay focused on the present. Trenton emphasizes that mastering our attention is essential to gaining control over our minds and reducing the tendency to overthink. The chapter opens with a discussion about the overwhelming number of distractions in our modern world. From our phones to social media to endless to-do lists, it can feel like our minds are always being pulled in different directions. Trenton explains that overthinking often arises when our attention is divided or scattered, preventing us from engaging fully in any one task. When we're constantly distracted, our brains never get the chance to settle into focused thinking, leading to mental fatigue and unnecessary rumination. This lack of focus can make it harder to find clarity, make decisions, and take action. One of the key insights Trenton offers is that attention is a limited resource. We only have so much mental energy to allocate each day, and when we waste it on distractions or on unproductive thinking, we deplete our ability to focus on what really matters. Trenton encourages readers to become more aware of where their attention is going and to recognize when it is being drained by trivial or negative thoughts. This awareness is the first step in regaining control over our minds and redirecting our energy toward more meaningful and productive pursuits. To counteract the distractions that fuel overthinking, Trenton offers a number of practical strategies. The first technique he introduces is mindful awareness. Mindfulness involves paying attention to the present moment without judgment. When we are mindful, we are able to observe our thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them. Trenton explains that by practicing mindfulness regularly, we can create mental space and become less reactive to the constant flow of thoughts that often lead to overthinking. Instead of letting our minds wander aimlessly, we can intentionally focus on the task at hand and be present in the moment. Another helpful strategy is eliminating external distractions. Trenton highlights that much of our overthinking is triggered by external stimuli, such as notifications from our phones or interruptions from our environment. He suggests setting aside specific times during the day to focus solely on important tasks, free from distractions. This could mean turning off notifications, setting boundaries with others, or creating a dedicated space for focused work. By creating an environment that minimizes distractions, we can help our mind stay calm and centered, making it easier to avoid overthinking. Trenton also delves into the importance of mental discipline in mastering our attention. He compares the mind to a muscle that needs regular exercise to stay sharp. Just as physical exercise requires focus and consistency, mental exercise requires us to intentionally direct our attention and practice discipline in maintaining focus. Trenton advises readers to practice activities that challenge their mental focus, such as meditation, deep breathing exercises, or even engaging in tasks that require sustained attention. These activities not only strengthen our ability to stay focused but also help train the brain to be less susceptible to distractions. One of the most powerful tools Trenton discusses for overcoming distractions and overthinking is the single-tasking approach. In a world that encourages multitasking, it can be difficult to focus on just one thing at a time. However, research has shown that multitasking often leads to decreased efficiency and increased stress. Trenton recommends embracing single-tasking by committing to one task at a time. Whether it's writing, working, or even engaging in a conversation, focusing on a single task allows us to direct our full attention toward it, which not only reduces the likelihood of overthinking but also increases the quality of our work. By practicing single-tasking, we can create a more productive and calm mental state. Trenton also addresses the role of self-compassion in managing attention and focus. He explains that when we struggle with overthinking, we often respond to ourselves with criticism or frustration. We may feel like we're failing if we can't immediately quiet our minds or stay focused. However, this negative self-talk only adds to the stress and fuels the cycle of overthinking. Instead, Trenton encourages readers to approach their mental challenges with kindness and patience. Recognizing that it's normal to get distracted or overthink from time to time, and treating ourselves with compassion, makes it easier to regain focus and move forward with greater clarity. The chapter also touches on the importance of taking regular breaks. Trenton explains that our brains are not designed to maintain intense focus for long periods without rest. Overworking our minds can lead to mental exhaustion, which only contributes to overthinking. He suggests taking short breaks throughout the day to recharge and refresh the mind. These breaks could involve stepping away from a task for a few minutes, stretching, or engaging in a calming activity, like taking a walk or practicing deep breathing. By allowing ourselves time to rest, we help prevent burnout and create space for better focus when we return to our tasks. As the chapter progresses, Trenton introduces the idea of using visualization to manage attention. Visualization is a technique where we mentally rehearse a task or goal, imagining ourselves successfully completing it. This mental rehearsal not only helps improve focus but also boosts confidence and reduces anxiety about the task at hand. Trenton encourages readers to use visualization as a tool to calm their minds and direct their attention toward their goals. By visualizing success, we prime our minds for success and reduce the mental clutter that comes with overthinking. Finally, Trenton wraps up the chapter by discussing the power of intentionality in managing attention. He stresses the importance of being intentional about how we use our time and mental energy. Overthinking often occurs when we lack clarity about what we want to achieve or where we want to focus our attention. Trenton encourages readers to set clear intentions for the day, focusing on a few key priorities that align with their values and goals. When we set clear intentions, we create a roadmap for our minds to follow, reducing the likelihood of being sidetracked by distractions or unnecessary thoughts. Chapter 9, Transforming Your Mindset, Shifting from Problem-Focused to Solution-Focused Thinking. In Chapter 9 of Stop Overthinking, Nick Trenton introduces a fundamental shift in how we approach our thoughts, moving from being problem-focused to becoming solution-focused. Overthinking, Trenton explains, often stems from repeatedly dwelling on problems without taking action toward resolving them. This cycle of rumination keeps us stuck, trapped in our thoughts, and prevents us from seeing possible solutions. The key to breaking free from overthinking is to focus on the solutions instead of the problems themselves. The chapter begins by discussing the common tendency to fixate on problems, no matter how big or small. Trenton notes that while it's natural to assess challenges and try to figure out how to solve them, many people get stuck in a loop of thinking about the problem over and over again without moving toward a solution. This mental loop creates a sense of helplessness and frustration, making it harder to think clearly or take action. Trenton explains that when we focus solely on problems, we become overwhelmed by the complexity or magnitude of the issue, which only fuels anxiety and overthinking. Trenton's first strategy for breaking this cycle is reframing the problem. Rather than viewing a situation as something insurmountable or negative, he encourages readers to look at it as a challenge that can be solved with a solution-oriented mindset. For example, instead of thinking, "This is a huge problem, and I don't know how to fix it," try reframing it as, "This is a challenge, and there are ways to address it." This simple shift in perspective helps reduce the emotional weight of the problem and opens up the mind to possible solutions. By reframing problems as challenges, we can create mental space for clarity and productive thinking. One of the powerful tools Trenton introduces in this chapter is the concept of asking solution-oriented questions. When we're stuck in overthinking, we often ask ourselves unproductive questions like, "Why is this happening to me?" or "What did I do wrong?" These questions focus on the problem and often lead to negative self-talk or hopelessness. Instead, Trenton recommends asking questions that focus on solutions, such as, "What can I do about this?" or "What is the first step I can take to solve this?" Solution-oriented questions help direct our attention toward action and away from the paralyzing cycle of overthinking. Trenton also emphasizes the importance of taking immediate action as a way to combat overthinking. When we're stuck in a mental loop, it's easy to fall into a state of paralysis, unsure of what to do next. However, the simple act of taking one small step towards solving the problem can break the cycle of rumination. Trenton suggests breaking down problems into manageable steps and focusing on just the first action that needs to be taken. This could be as simple as making a phone call, writing down a plan, or gathering information. Taking action, even if it's small, creates momentum and helps to build confidence, which reduces the tendency to overthink. Another key concept Trenton addresses in this chapter is the idea of accepting uncertainty. Overthinkers often feel the need to have all the answers or to be completely certain about the outcome before taking any action. This need for certainty can be paralyzing and keeps us from making decisions or moving forward. Trenton explains that uncertainty is an inherent part of life, and trying to eliminate it entirely only adds to the stress of overthinking. Instead of waiting for the perfect solution or the perfect moment, Trenton encourages readers to accept that they don't need to have all the answers immediately. It's okay to take action without having every detail figured out, as the process of moving forward often brings clarity and new insights. Trenton also talks about managing expectations in this chapter. One of the reasons we overthink is because we set unrealistically high expectations for ourselves, others, or the outcomes of certain situations. When things don't go as planned, we start to worry and obsess over what went wrong. To overcome this, Trenton suggests setting more realistic, flexible expectations. By acknowledging that things won't always go perfectly and being open to adjustments, we can reduce the pressure that leads to overthinking. Setting manageable expectations allows us to move forward with greater ease and less mental stress. The concept of mindful decision-making is also explored in this chapter. Overthinkers often get caught in a cycle of indecision, as they weigh all the pros and cons of a situation endlessly. Trenton suggests practicing mindfulness when making decisions. Instead of trying to predict every possible outcome, we can make decisions based on the information we have at the moment and trust that we can adjust later if necessary. Mindful decision-making encourages us to focus on the present moment and trust our ability to handle challenges as they arise, rather than getting lost in hypothetical scenarios that may never happen. Another important point Trenton makes is the role of positivity in shifting to a solution-focused mindset. Negative thinking can cloud our judgment and prevent us from seeing possible solutions. By cultivating a positive, optimistic outlook, we become more open to possibilities and better equipped to handle challenges. Trenton suggests that readers practice positive affirmations or engage in activities that boost their mood and outlook. A positive mindset not only helps reduce overthinking but also increases our ability to approach problems with creativity and confidence. Trenton emphasizes that shifting to a solution-focused mindset is a skill that requires practice and patience. It's not something that happens overnight, but by regularly applying the strategies outlined in this chapter, we can train our minds to focus on solutions rather than getting bogged down by problems. Trenton encourages readers to be persistent in their efforts and to celebrate small victories along the way. Each time we take a step toward a solution, we reinforce the habit of focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we cannot. Finally, Trenton wraps up the chapter by reiterating the importance of self-compassion in the process of transformation. As we work on shifting from problem-focused thinking to solution-focused thinking, we may encounter setbacks or moments of doubt. It's important to treat ourselves with kindness and understanding during this process, knowing that change takes time. Trenton reminds readers that progress is not always linear, and every small step counts toward creating a more positive, action-oriented mindset. Chapter 10, Building Habits That Prevent Overthinking, How to Cultivate Mental Clarity. In Chapter 10, Nick Trenton emphasizes the importance of habits in shaping our mental and emotional lives. Overthinking is often a product of habitual thinking patterns and responses to daily stressors. The chapter aims to show how by building new, intentional habits, we can break the cycle of overthinking and create a more peaceful, productive mindset. Trenton begins the chapter by acknowledging that we are creatures of habit. Much of our daily behavior, including how we think, is governed by the habits we've developed over time. When we repeatedly engage in patterns of overthinking, it becomes an automatic response to situations that trigger stress or uncertainty. This habitual overthinking can be exhausting and unproductive, leading us to feel mentally drained and stuck. Trenton argues that by creating new habits, we can rewire our brains to respond differently to stress, challenges, and even the smallest of decisions. One of the first habits Trenton recommends building is mindful awareness. Overthinking often starts when we are unaware of our thoughts and reactions to situations. Mindful awareness allows us to observe our thoughts without judgment, creating space to break free from automatic overthinking patterns. Trenton suggests incorporating mindfulness into daily life by practicing short moments of awareness, whether it's focusing on your breath for a few seconds or pausing to observe your thoughts when you feel yourself starting to overthink. By becoming more aware of our thoughts, we can catch ourselves before we spiral into rumination. Another powerful habit that Trenton suggests is journaling. Writing down our thoughts is an effective way to externalize what's going on inside our heads, allowing us to gain perspective on our thinking patterns. When we write, we take the time to slow down and organize our thoughts, which can help reduce the overwhelming flood of ideas that contribute to overthinking. Journaling also provides an opportunity to express emotions that may otherwise go unaddressed. Trenton recommends journaling regularly, even if it's just a few minutes each day, to help process feelings, clarify goals, and reflect on our mental state. Trenton also discusses the role of physical activity in reducing overthinking. He explains that when we engage in regular exercise, we release endorphins, natural chemicals that improve mood and reduce stress. Physical activity not only keeps our bodies healthy but also helps clear our minds, allowing us to focus on the present moment rather than getting lost in unnecessary thoughts. Whether it's a walk, yoga, or a more intense workout, finding an activity that we enjoy and can do regularly is an excellent habit to incorporate into daily life. Exercise doesn't just improve our physical well-being, it has a profound impact on our mental clarity and ability to reduce overthinking. In addition to physical exercise, Trenton highlights the importance of sleep in managing overthinking. Over time, sleep deprivation can lead to cognitive dysfunction, increased stress, and a greater tendency to ruminate. The chapter stresses the importance of developing a sleep routine that promotes rest and relaxation. Trenton advises creating a wind-down ritual before bed, whether it's reading a book, meditating, or avoiding screens, to signal to the body that it's time to rest. A good night's sleep not only improves mental clarity but also helps regulate emotions, making it easier to deal with stress without overthinking. Trenton also emphasizes the value of setting boundaries. Many people experience overthinking because they are constantly giving their time and energy to others without considering their own needs. By setting clear boundaries, we protect ourselves from mental and emotional exhaustion, which can prevent overthinking. Trenton suggests saying no when necessary, prioritizing tasks, and protecting time for self-care. Boundaries are a way to honor ourselves and ensure that we have the mental space to focus on what truly matters without getting overwhelmed by external demands. The chapter also focuses on the habit of accepting imperfection. Overthinkers often fall into the trap of perfectionism, believing that everything must be flawless in order to be successful. This mindset can lead to paralyzing overthinking, as we try to anticipate every possible outcome and ensure we don't make any mistakes. Trenton explains that accepting imperfection is a key habit in reducing overthinking. By embracing the fact that life is messy and that mistakes are a natural part of growth, we can alleviate the pressure that contributes to overthinking. Trenton encourages readers to shift from a mindset of perfection to one of progress, where small, consistent steps are more important than achieving perfection. One of the habits Trenton introduces in this chapter is intentionally simplifying life. Overthinking often arises when our lives feel too cluttered, whether physically or mentally. Trenton suggests simplifying our routines, goals, and commitments to reduce the mental clutter that fuels overthinking. This could mean decluttering your home, streamlining your work schedule, or narrowing down your focus to a few key goals rather than spreading yourself too thin. Simplifying life creates space for clarity and peace of mind, making it easier to focus on what matters most without getting bogged down by unnecessary distractions. Another habit Trenton advocates for is prioritizing gratitude. Overthinkers tend to focus on what's going wrong, what could go wrong, or what's lacking in their lives. Trenton argues that cultivating gratitude can shift this focus away from the negative and toward the positive. He suggests making gratitude a daily practice, whether it's through writing down 3 things you're grateful for each day or taking a moment to appreciate the small wins in your life. A gratitude practice helps rewire the brain to focus on abundance rather than scarcity, reducing the tendency to overthink and fostering a more positive outlook. Trenton also addresses the importance of self-compassion. Overthinkers are often their harshest critics, ruminating on mistakes or flaws and endlessly replaying past situations in their minds. By practicing self-compassion, we can stop the cycle of self-blame and judgment, which only fuels overthinking. Trenton encourages readers to speak to themselves as they would to a friend, offering kindness and understanding rather than criticism. Self-compassion creates a safe mental space for growth and learning, making it easier to move on from mistakes and avoid getting stuck in overthinking. Finally, Trenton discusses the habit of taking small, consistent actions. Often, overthinking stems from inaction or the fear of making the wrong decision. By taking small, manageable steps, we reduce the fear that leads to overthinking. These actions, while seemingly minor, help build momentum and confidence. Trenton advises breaking down larger tasks into smaller ones and focusing on completing one thing at a time. Each small success reinforces the habit of taking action and gradually reduces the tendency to overthink. Chapter 11. Shifting your thinking, overcoming negative thought patterns. In Chapter 11, Nick Trenton dives deeper into how negative thought patterns contribute to overthinking and provides practical strategies to shift from these detrimental patterns to healthier, more productive ways of thinking. Overthinking is often a result of allowing negative thoughts to take over our minds, creating a cycle of worry, self-doubt, and fear. By learning how to identify and challenge these negative thoughts, we can break the cycle of overthinking and replace it with a more positive and solution-focused mindset. Trenton starts by explaining how our thoughts often become automatic, especially when we are stressed, anxious, or facing uncertainty. These automatic thoughts are usually negative, focusing on potential problems, worst-case scenarios, and self-criticism. Trenton points out that these negative thoughts are not necessarily based in reality, they are simply mental patterns that we've developed over time. The first step in overcoming overthinking is to become aware of these thoughts and recognize them as unproductive. Once we acknowledge that these thoughts are just mental habits, we can begin to change them. One of the key strategies Trenton recommends in this chapter is thought stopping. When we catch ourselves starting to think negatively or spiral into overthinking, he suggests using a technique known as thought stopping. This involves mentally telling yourself, "Stop," and consciously redirecting your attention to something more positive or constructive. Thought stopping is a simple but effective tool for interrupting negative thought patterns before they escalate. It's about regaining control over your thoughts and not letting them control you. Trenton also discusses the importance of challenging your thoughts. Overthinkers often assume that their negative thoughts are true, but Trenton urges readers to question these thoughts. For example, if you catch yourself thinking, "I can't do this," ask yourself, "Is this really true, and what evidence do I have to support this thought?" Often, negative thoughts are exaggerated or based on irrational fears. By challenging these thoughts, we can replace them with more realistic and empowering ones. This shift in perspective helps break the cycle of overthinking and leads to more constructive thinking. Another technique Trenton introduces is reframing your thoughts. Reframing involves changing the way you look at a situation or problem. Instead of focusing on the negative aspects, you focus on the potential positives or opportunities that the situation presents. For example, if you're worried about a challenging project at work, instead of thinking, "This is going to be too hard," you could reframe it by thinking, "This is a great opportunity to learn and grow." Reframing helps to reduce the emotional charge that negative thoughts carry, making it easier to stay calm and focused on finding solutions. Trenton also talks about the power of positive affirmations. Overthinkers often struggle with low self-esteem and self-doubt, which feed into the cycle of negative thinking. Positive affirmations are statements that challenge these negative beliefs by affirming our strengths, capabilities, and potential. By repeating affirmations such as, "I am capable of handling this," or "I am worthy of success," we can retrain our minds to believe in our abilities. Trenton emphasizes that consistency is key when using affirmations. Over time, repeating positive affirmations can help change the way we view ourselves and our situations, promoting a more positive and proactive mindset. In addition to affirmations, Trenton suggests visualization as a powerful tool to combat negative thinking. Visualization involves imagining yourself succeeding or achieving your goals. When you visualize success, your brain begins to form positive associations with the task at hand, reducing anxiety and overthinking. Trenton recommends taking a few minutes each day to vividly imagine yourself handling challenges with confidence and ease. This mental rehearsal can help you feel more prepared and calm when facing real-life situations, breaking the cycle of overthinking that comes from fear of failure or uncertainty. Another important aspect of shifting your thinking is practicing gratitude. Trenton explains that overthinkers often focus on what they don't have or what could go wrong, which increases anxiety and stress. Gratitude, on the other hand, shifts the focus to what is going well and what we appreciate in our lives. Trenton recommends making gratitude a daily habit, whether it's through journaling or simply taking a moment to reflect on the things you are grateful for. Practicing gratitude helps to create a more positive outlook on life, reducing the tendency to overthink and fostering mental clarity. Trenton also touches on the role of self-compassion in overcoming negative thinking. Overthinkers often engage in harsh self-criticism, replaying mistakes or failures in their minds and berating themselves for not doing better. This constant self-judgment only fuels overthinking and prevents personal growth. Trenton encourages readers to practice self-compassion by treating themselves with kindness and understanding, especially during times of failure or difficulty. Instead of criticizing yourself, try speaking to yourself as you would to a friend, offering encouragement and support. Self-compassion allows us to release the shame and guilt that often accompany overthinking, helping us to move forward with a clearer, more positive mindset. Trenton concludes the chapter by emphasizing the importance of developing a growth mindset. Overthinking is often linked to a fixed mindset, where we believe that our abilities and outcomes are predetermined. This belief can cause us to doubt ourselves and avoid taking action. In contrast, a growth mindset embraces challenges and sees failures as opportunities for growth and learning. Trenton suggests that by adopting a growth mindset, we can break free from the limiting beliefs that fuel overthinking. With a growth mindset, we are more likely to approach challenges with curiosity and resilience, rather than fear and hesitation. Chapter 12, Taking Action, the Key to Breaking the Cycle of Overthinking. In Chapter 12, Trenton discusses one of the most effective ways to combat overthinking, taking action. Overthinking often leads to paralysis by analysis, where the mind is so focused on exploring every possible outcome that it becomes difficult to make decisions or move forward. Trenton emphasizes that the key to breaking free from this cycle is to take consistent, purposeful actions, no matter how small they may seem. The chapter explores the transformative power of action in overcoming mental blocks and reducing the overwhelming flood of thoughts that contribute to overthinking. Trenton begins by explaining that overthinking tends to arise in situations where we feel uncertain, anxious, or afraid of making the wrong choice. Instead of making a decision, our minds get stuck in a loop of contemplating every possible option and outcome. This indecision fuels more anxiety, which in turn leads to even more overthinking. Trenton asserts that one of the simplest ways to stop this cycle is by taking action, any action, no matter how insignificant it may appear at first. Taking action breaks the pattern of rumination and moves us toward resolution. Trenton emphasizes that small actions are just as effective as big ones when it comes to combating overthinking. Often, the idea of taking large, life-changing steps can feel overwhelming, leading to further paralysis. But small, incremental actions, such as making a phone call, writing a short email, or taking a few minutes to plan, can create momentum and help us move forward. The key is to start. Once you take that first small step, it becomes easier to take the next one, and soon, you'll find that you've made more progress than you thought possible. Another important aspect of taking action, according to Trenton, is learning to decide quickly. Overthinkers often delay making decisions, fearing that the wrong choice will lead to negative consequences. Trenton suggests that making decisions quickly can help break the cycle of overthinking. He points out that our brains have a tendency to overanalyze situations, but often, the best course of action is to make a decision based on the available information and move forward. By removing the pressure to make the perfect decision, we reduce the stress and indecision that fuel overthinking. Trenton also discusses the importance of embracing imperfection in action. Overthinkers often wait for the perfect moment or the perfect set of conditions before they take any action. This desire for perfectionism can result in procrastination and increased anxiety. Trenton advises that taking imperfect action is often better than doing nothing at all. He encourages readers to stop waiting for ideal conditions and to start with what they have, knowing that mistakes or setbacks are part of the learning process. By embracing imperfection, we can break free from the paralyzing fear of failure that often accompanies overthinking. One of the most powerful tools Trenton introduces in this chapter is the concept of creating deadlines. Overthinkers often find themselves stuck in a cycle of endless planning and thinking because they have no specific timeline to move forward. Setting deadlines for decisions and actions creates a sense of urgency that helps to overcome the tendency to overthink. Trenton suggests that by establishing realistic deadlines, we can prevent ourselves from falling into the trap of endless deliberation. Deadlines force us to take action and push through the inertia that often accompanies overthinking. Trenton also explains that action breeds confidence. When we take steps toward a goal, no matter how small, we build a sense of accomplishment and self-efficacy. This momentum helps to combat the self-doubt that often fuels overthinking. As we experience success in taking action, we become more confident in our abilities to handle challenges and make decisions. This growing confidence, in turn, reduces our tendency to overthink future situations, creating a positive cycle of progress and self-assurance. Additionally, Trenton highlights the importance of accountability in taking action. When we have someone to answer to, whether it's a friend, colleague, or coach, we're more likely to follow through on our commitments. Accountability helps us stay focused and motivated, preventing us from falling back into old habits of overthinking and procrastination. Trenton encourages readers to share their goals with others and ask for support in holding them accountable. This external motivation can be a powerful catalyst for taking action and achieving results. In this chapter, Trenton also explores the concept of embracing discomfort. Overthinking often arises from our desire to avoid discomfort or make the perfect choice. However, discomfort is a natural part of growth and progress. Trenton suggests that by learning to embrace discomfort, we can push past the fear and uncertainty that often accompany decision-making. Instead of avoiding difficult decisions or challenging tasks, we can view them as opportunities for growth. By facing discomfort head-on, we break free from the cycle of overthinking and move forward with greater confidence. Trenton also addresses the role of focus in taking action. Overthinkers often find themselves distracted by irrelevant thoughts and fears, making it difficult to focus on what truly matters. Trenton recommends practicing mindfulness and concentration to stay focused on the task at hand. This focus allows us to take purposeful action without getting sidetracked by worries or distractions. By staying focused, we can ensure that our actions are aligned with our goals and that we are moving toward meaningful progress. Finally, Trenton concludes the chapter by reiterating the idea that action is the antidote to overthinking. By taking consistent, purposeful action, we can stop the cycle of rumination and move forward with clarity and confidence. He encourages readers to start small, make decisions quickly, embrace imperfection, set deadlines, and seek accountability. These strategies help to shift the focus from overthinking to action, ultimately leading to greater progress, satisfaction, and peace of mind. Chapter 13, Building Resilience, How to Strengthen Your Mental Toughness. In Chapter 13, Nick Trenton dives deep into the concept of mental resilience, the ability to withstand stress, adapt to challenges, and stay calm in the face of adversity. He explains that resilience is not a trait that people are born with, rather, it's a skill that can be developed with practice. Trenton emphasizes that by building mental resilience, we can reduce overthinking because we become less affected by stress and uncertainty, allowing us to make decisions with clarity and confidence. Trenton begins by explaining the connection between resilience and overthinking. When we face stressful situations or unexpected changes, our minds often race with worries, doubts, and what-ifs. This flood of negative thoughts can easily spiral into overthinking, making it harder to focus on finding solutions or taking action. Building resilience, however, helps us manage stress and maintain a calm, clear mind, preventing the overthinking cycle from taking hold. Developing a resilient mindset. Trenton introduces the idea that a resilient mindset is rooted in belief, specifically, the belief that we are capable of handling challenges. He suggests that the way we view stress and adversity plays a crucial role in how we respond to it. If we perceive stress as something that is beyond our control or as a sign of weakness, we are more likely to become overwhelmed and start overthinking. However, if we see stress as a natural part of life, something that can be managed and overcome, we are more likely to remain calm and focused when difficulties arise. Trenton encourages readers to adopt a growth mindset, which is a key component of resilience. A growth mindset is the belief that our abilities, intelligence, and emotions can be developed through effort and learning. People with a growth mindset view challenges as opportunities for growth, rather than as insurmountable obstacles. This mindset shift helps to reduce the fear of failure and the tendency to overthink potential outcomes. Instead of dwelling on possible mistakes, those with a growth mindset focus on learning from each experience and using setbacks as stepping stones to success. The role of self-awareness in resilience. One of the foundational steps in building resilience is self-awareness. Trenton explains that by becoming more aware of our thoughts, emotions, and reactions, we can better understand the triggers that lead to overthinking and stress. When we are aware of our internal state, we can take steps to regulate our emotions and prevent ourselves from getting caught in a spiral of negative thinking. Trenton recommends practicing mindfulness as a tool to enhance self-awareness. Mindfulness involves paying attention to the present moment without judgment, which helps to break the cycle of overthinking and worry. By practicing mindfulness regularly, we can learn to observe our thoughts without getting caught up in them. This allows us to step back and gain perspective, helping us respond to stress in a more measured and resilient way. Managing stress and anxiety. Trenton acknowledges that building resilience doesn't mean eliminating stress or anxiety entirely. These feelings are a natural part of life and will always be present to some degree. However, by building resilience, we can learn to manage them more effectively. Trenton offers several strategies for managing stress and anxiety, which are key to preventing overthinking. One of the most effective strategies for managing stress is deep breathing. When we're stressed, our bodies go into fight or flight mode, which can make it difficult to think clearly. Deep breathing helps to activate the body's relaxation response, calming the nervous system and reducing the physical symptoms of stress. Trenton recommends practicing deep breathing exercises when feeling overwhelmed or anxious. By focusing on slow, deep breaths, we can lower our heart rate, relax our muscles, and return to a more calm and focused state. Another technique Trenton discusses is progressive muscle relaxation. This involves tensing and then releasing different muscle groups in the body to reduce tension and promote relaxation. By engaging in this practice, we can help our bodies release built-up stress and return to a more peaceful state. These physical relaxation techniques are powerful tools for managing the physical and mental effects of stress, preventing overthinking from taking hold. The power of positive thinking. Trenton also emphasizes the role of positive thinking in building resilience. He explains that while it's natural to have negative thoughts in times of stress, constantly focusing on the negative can make us more vulnerable to overthinking. Instead, Trenton suggests practicing positive affirmations, statements that challenge negative beliefs and encourage a more optimistic outlook. For example, if you're faced with a difficult situation, instead of thinking, "I can't handle this," try reframing the thought with a positive affirmation like, "I have the strength and resources to handle this challenge." By repeating these affirmations regularly, we can train our brains to focus on the positive aspects of situations and cultivate a more resilient mindset. This shift in thinking helps to reduce the tendency to overthink and fosters a sense of control and confidence. Building social support. Another important aspect of resilience is having a strong support network. Trenton emphasizes that we don't have to face challenges alone. Having supportive friends, family members, or colleagues can make a significant difference in our ability to cope with stress and adversity. Trenton suggests that building and maintaining strong relationships is essential for developing resilience. When we have people we can rely on, we are better equipped to handle stress and are less likely to become overwhelmed by overthinking. Additionally, Trenton advises reaching out for help when needed. Many people avoid seeking support because they fear appearing weak or vulnerable. However, asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Trenton encourages readers to be open to receiving support and to recognize that it's okay to lean on others during difficult times. This sense of community and connection enhances our resilience and helps to reduce the feelings of isolation that often fuel overthinking. Developing coping strategies. Trenton concludes the chapter by emphasizing the importance of developing healthy coping strategies. Building resilience requires proactive effort, and one of the best ways to strengthen our ability to cope with stress is to develop strategies that work for us personally. Trenton suggests experimenting with different techniques, such as journaling, physical exercise, or creative activities, to find what helps us manage stress and maintain mental clarity. By developing these coping mechanisms, we can handle challenges with greater ease and reduce the impact that stress has on our minds. Over time, these strategies become ingrained habits that help us bounce back more quickly from setbacks and stay focused on moving forward. Ultimately, the more resilient we become, the less likely we are to get trapped in the cycle of overthinking. Chapter 14, Managing Distractions, How to Stay Focused and Stop Overthinking. In Chapter 14, Nick Trenton addresses a key aspect of overcoming overthinking, managing distractions. In today's digital age, distractions are everywhere. From social media notifications to work emails, to the constant stream of information we encounter daily, distractions have become a significant obstacle to clear thinking and effective decision-making. Trenton explains that these distractions don't just interrupt our focus, they also fuel overthinking, as they pull our attention away from the task at hand and keep our minds in a constant state of fragmentation. Trenton begins the chapter by highlighting the problem: our minds are not designed to multitask efficiently. While we may think we can juggle several tasks at once, research has shown that the brain is much better at focusing on one thing at a time. When we attempt to multitask or shift our focus between various distractions, our cognitive resources become divided, making it harder to process information and make decisions. This scattered attention often leads to overthinking, as we become anxious about missing important details or not fully processing information before taking action. Trenton emphasizes that reducing distractions is crucial for minimizing overthinking and regaining control of our focus. When we allow ourselves to be constantly pulled in different directions, our minds never get the opportunity to settle on a single thought or task long enough to come to a resolution. This scattered thinking leads to rumination and excessive analysis, which are the hallmarks of overthinking. The solution, Trenton argues, lies in training ourselves to minimize distractions and give our full attention to one task at a time. Understanding the impact of distractions. Trenton explains that distractions have a profound impact on our cognitive processes. When we are distracted, our brain shifts from the task at hand to something else, which requires additional mental effort to refocus. This process is mentally exhausting, and over time, it can lead to mental fatigue and stress. Moreover, distractions prevent us from entering a state of deep focus, which is necessary for making sound decisions and taking effective action. Without this focused attention, we are more likely to become overwhelmed by the sheer volume of thoughts, which can lead to overthinking. To help readers understand the extent of the problem, Trenton provides several examples of how distractions impact our daily lives. Whether it's the constant pings of social media notifications, the temptation to check our phones during meetings, or the lure of news articles and videos that pull our attention away from important tasks, distractions are everywhere. These interruptions not only prevent us from completing tasks efficiently but also contribute to mental clutter, making it harder to think clearly and stay present in the moment. Strategies for managing distractions. Trenton offers several practical strategies to manage distractions and regain focus. One of the first techniques he recommends is creating a designated workspace. Whether you're working from home, studying, or simply trying to focus on a personal project, having a specific space dedicated to that task can help signal to your brain that it's time to concentrate. Trenton advises removing any distractions from this space, such as your phone, unrelated papers, or even noisy environments, that could pull your attention away from the task at hand. By creating a clean, quiet space for focused work, you reduce the temptation to multitask and allow yourself to engage fully with the task. Another key strategy Trenton emphasizes is setting clear goals and priorities. When we don't have a clear sense of what we need to accomplish, it's easy to become distracted by unrelated tasks and thoughts. Trenton recommends breaking down larger projects into smaller, manageable steps and setting specific goals for each work session. This not only helps us stay focused but also gives us a sense of accomplishment as we check off completed tasks. By having a clear roadmap, we can avoid getting sidetracked by distractions and stay on track toward achieving our goals. The power of time blocking. Trenton also discusses the technique of time blocking, which involves scheduling specific blocks of time for focused work and other activities. By allocating dedicated time for certain tasks, we can create structure in our day and reduce the likelihood of distractions. Trenton advises readers to set aside periods of uninterrupted time where they can focus solely on one task, whether it's writing, problem solving, or engaging in deep thinking. During these time blocks, all other distractions, such as checking emails or browsing social media, should be eliminated. Time blocking helps to create a routine that prioritizes focus and allows us to achieve more in less time. Additionally, Trenton suggests using the Pomodoro technique, a time management method that involves working in short bursts, typically 25 minutes, followed by a short break. This technique helps to maintain focus and prevent burnout, as it creates a sense of urgency and encourages full engagement during work intervals. After completing several Pomodoros, you can take a longer break to rest and recharge. This structured approach to time management helps combat distractions by providing a clear start and end time for focused work. Reducing digital distractions. In today's digital world, distractions often come from our phones, computers, and other devices. Trenton devotes a section of the chapter to reducing digital distractions, acknowledging that while technology can be incredibly useful, it can also become a major source of interruption. One of his recommendations is to use focus apps that block distracting websites or apps during designated work periods. These apps allow you to set timers that restrict access to social media, email, or other digital distractions, helping you stay focused on the task at hand. Trenton also suggests setting specific times throughout the day to check emails or social media, rather than allowing these activities to interrupt your flow of work. By compartmentalizing when you engage with digital distractions, you can reduce the impulse to check notifications constantly and regain control over your attention. He also recommends turning off unnecessary notifications or putting your phone on "Do Not Disturb" mode when you need to concentrate. These small adjustments can make a significant difference in minimizing digital distractions and maintaining focus. The importance of rest and downtime. While managing distractions is crucial for focus, Trenton also emphasizes the importance of rest and downtime. Overworking or pushing yourself too hard can lead to burnout, which in turn makes it harder to maintain focus and avoid distractions. Trenton recommends taking regular breaks throughout the day to recharge. These breaks don't have to be long, even a few minutes of stretching, walking, or simply stepping away from your workspace can help refresh your mind and improve focus when you return to work. Trenton also suggests getting enough sleep, as a lack of rest can exacerbate overthinking and make it harder to concentrate. Sleep is essential for cognitive function, and when we're well rested, we're more likely to stay focused and avoid distractions. By prioritizing rest, we ensure that our minds are sharp and ready to engage in the tasks that matter most. Mindfulness and staying present. Trenton wraps up the chapter by highlighting the role of mindfulness in managing distractions and overthinking. By practicing mindfulness, we can train ourselves to stay present and avoid getting caught up in thoughts or distractions that pull us away from the task at hand. Mindfulness involves paying attention to the present moment without judgment, which helps us become more aware of when our attention is drifting. By practicing mindfulness regularly, we can become more adept at redirecting our focus and staying engaged with what we're doing. Chapter 15, Mastering Decision-Making, How to Overcome the Fear of Making Mistakes. In Chapter 15, Nick Trenton addresses one of the most common causes of overthinking, decision-making. Overthinking often arises when we're faced with making a choice, and the fear of making the wrong decision paralyzes us, leading to endless rumination and second-guessing. Trenton argues that our ability to make decisions quickly and confidently is a key factor in reducing overthinking, and in this chapter, he provides practical tools and strategies for improving decision-making skills. Trenton starts by discussing the paradox of choice. In a world with endless options and possibilities, the pressure to make the perfect decision can become overwhelming. This paradox refers to the fact that the more choices we have, the more difficult it becomes to choose, which often leads to indecision and anxiety. Trenton points out that this overwhelming sense of choice can trigger overthinking, as we worry about making the wrong choice or missing out on a better opportunity. He explains that overthinking doesn't make us more prepared to make decisions. In fact, it often does the opposite. It causes us to doubt our abilities, become more uncertain, and ultimately delay taking action. Trenton emphasizes that while it's natural to want to make the best decision, perfection is not always achievable. Making decisions, even imperfect ones, is better than remaining stuck in a cycle of analysis paralysis. The fear of making mistakes. One of the key drivers of overthinking and decision-making is the fear of making mistakes. Trenton discusses how this fear can lead to excessive caution and procrastination. Many people avoid making decisions altogether, or they agonize over every possible outcome, trying to predict every possible mistake. This fear of failure often results in overthinking, as individuals worry about the consequences of their decisions. Trenton offers a mindset shift to combat this fear: mistakes are learning opportunities. Instead of seeing mistakes as failures, we should view them as part of the process of growth and learning. He highlights that no one has a perfect track record, and even the most successful individuals have made mistakes along the way. What matters is not avoiding mistakes, but learning from them and using them to make better decisions in the future. This mindset helps reduce the pressure to make the perfect decision and shifts the focus to progress rather than perfection. The importance of decision-making speed. Trenton argues that one of the most important skills in decision-making is speed. He explains that when we take too long to make a decision, we allow our overthinking to take control. The longer we deliberate, the more possibilities we consider, which increases the chances of getting lost in analysis and uncertainty. Trenton encourages readers to make decisions quickly, even if they're not 100% certain. The key is to avoid getting stuck in a cycle of overthinking and to trust that you can adapt and adjust if the decision turns out to be less than ideal. He suggests using a simple rule: make decisions within a set time frame. Whether it's a few minutes for small decisions or a few days for larger ones, setting a time limit helps break the cycle of overthinking. Trenton also advises that if a decision doesn't feel urgent or pressing, it's okay to let it go for a while and come back to it with fresh eyes. Often, the longer we delay a decision, the more clarity we gain, and the decision-making process becomes easier. The 80-20 rule of decision-making. To simplify the decision-making process, Trenton introduces the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle. The 80-20 rule suggests that 80% of the results come from 20% of the efforts or decisions. Trenton applies this principle to decision-making by suggesting that most decisions we make don't need to be perfect to yield positive outcomes. Instead of overanalyzing every possible detail, we should focus on the key 20% that truly matters and will have the most significant impact. By using the 80-20 rule, we can prioritize the most important factors in a decision and avoid getting bogged down by less critical details. Trenton explains that this approach helps eliminate the feeling of being overwhelmed by too many variables and encourages quicker, more effective decision-making. It's a strategy that reduces the risk of overthinking by focusing on the core aspects of a choice rather than getting caught up in every possible scenario. Trusting your instincts. Trenton stresses the importance of intuition in decision-making. Our instincts can often lead us to the right choice, especially when we trust ourselves and stop overanalyzing every potential outcome. Overthinking can cloud our judgment, while intuition is a fast and effective way to reach a decision based on our past experiences and gut feelings. Trenton encourages readers to tune into their intuition and trust their initial reactions when making decisions. He also explains that while it's important to listen to your instincts, it's equally crucial to balance intuition with logic and reason. Intuition can serve as a guiding compass, but it should be supplemented by thoughtful reflection and analysis. The combination of intuitive insight and logical reasoning creates a balanced approach to decision-making that can help reduce overthinking. The power of small decisions. Another important insight Trenton shares is the power of small decisions. He points out that we often overthink big decisions because we feel that each one has enormous consequences. However, many of the decisions we face daily are smaller and more manageable than we think. Trenton encourages readers to break down larger decisions into smaller, more actionable steps. By focusing on making one small decision at a time, we reduce the mental weight of larger choices and prevent ourselves from becoming overwhelmed. Trenton also advises that small decisions should not be dismissed as insignificant. Each small decision we make builds our decision-making muscle, making it easier to handle larger choices in the future. By practicing making decisions regularly, whether it's choosing what to eat, what to wear, or how to structure your day, we build confidence in our ability to make bigger decisions without overthinking. Commitment to your decisions. Trenton highlights that once a decision is made, it's important to commit to it. Overthinking often leads to second-guessing, where we start doubting the decision we've already made and begin wondering if there's a better choice. This cycle of doubt is exhausting and counterproductive. Trenton suggests that once a decision is made, we should move forward with confidence and avoid revisiting the choice repeatedly. If new information arises, we can adjust our course as needed, but constantly rethinking past decisions only increases overthinking and anxiety. One strategy Trenton recommends is using a technique called satisficing instead of seeking perfection. Satisficing means accepting a decision that is good enough rather than striving for the perfect choice. By adopting this mindset, we free ourselves from the paralyzing fear of making the wrong choice and instead focus on progress and action. Satisficing helps break the cycle of overthinking by allowing us to move forward with a sense of peace and confidence. Learning from past decisions. Finally, Trenton concludes the chapter by encouraging readers to learn from their past decisions. He reminds us that mistakes and missteps are part of life and offer valuable lessons. By reflecting on our decisions and analyzing what went well or what could be improved, we can make better decisions in the future. This reflective practice helps build confidence and reduces the fear of making mistakes, which is often at the root of overthinking. As we wrap up the insights from Stop Overthinking, we're left with a powerful message: overthinking is something we can control. The journey through this book has equipped us with practical strategies to stop the cycle of excessive thought and regain control over our mental space. From understanding how our emotions trigger overthinking to learning how to make decisions with confidence, the key takeaway is that we have the power to stop overthinking by changing our mindset and habits. Throughout the chapters, Nick Trenton provides us with simple yet effective tools for managing our thoughts. Whether it's learning to pause and reflect before spiraling into doubt, practicing mindfulness, or reframing negative thought patterns, the strategies are all designed to help us regain control over our minds. By focusing on the present moment, trusting our instincts, and accepting that we can't predict every outcome, we free ourselves from the paralyzing grip of overthinking. For those of us looking to break free from the constant mental chatter and find mental clarity, the journey starts by acknowledging our thoughts and choosing to steer them in a healthier direction. Overthinking doesn't have to define us, it's a habit that we can rewire with consistent effort and patience. At Mindful Audio, we believe in the power of knowledge, clarity, and positive action. Just as we share thought-provoking audiobooks and motivational insights to fuel your mind, we hope this summary from Stop Overthinking empowers you to apply what you've learned and take actionable steps toward a more peaceful, focused mindset. Remember, true growth happens when we stop overanalyzing and start living with intention and presence. Let's embrace the tools we've learned and move forward with confidence, knowing that we can choose not to get stuck in the trap of overthinking. It's time to embrace clarity and take control of our thoughts, starting today.